We have Mr. Bill O'Reilly, who is here to talk to us about the biggest news of the week. Hello, Bill. How are you?
What kind of music is that behind me? It sounds like some kind of zombie music, you know?
It is.
That I'm being chased.
Well, because it's kind of like, Dawn of the Dead, zombies.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, we look at you
It's
with
spooky music,
torn
Beck.
pants. And
I may be too frightened to do this interview.
I know. Okay.
All right.
So biggest story of the week.
Okay. Obviously, the war in Ukraine 1-year anniversary. Biden going there, it's a huge story. And then the self-destruction of Pete Buttigieg. His national political career is over. So we have one domestic major story and one foreign.
So hang on just a second. Let's start with the Pete Buttigieg. You think that it is destroyed. I think he is such the idiot and so incompetent that that's who those in power look to run. I think the Democrats are looking at it going, well, he's qualified.
Beck, I will submit to you that there is not one person listening to us right now, all the millions of people tuned into Beck,
right?
Not one would cast a ballot for Pete Buttigieg for anything.
I hope you're right, but I can't count on anything anymore.
When have I been wrong?
No,
I'm never wrong.
I know.
He's done. And I'll tell you why. It's very simple. Americans have suffered at the hands of the airlines for 2 years. He's the Secretary of Transportation, has done bupkis, nothing, doesn't care. You can be, your baggage can wind up in Bangladesh. You could be sleeping in the airport for 4 days. And the federal government, with oversight over the airlines, does nothing. That's number one. So people already despise him. 3 weeks to go to a toxic train crash
and really only went because Trump made him look so bad.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, I think the Biden people were going to order him to go anyway, but they sped it up. But then the question becomes, what the deuce does he do all day?
Yeah.
What is he doing? This isn't like doing a talk show for 3 hours every day, okay? Buttigieg, he sits there at his little desk.
Right.
And, I need some personal time.
Yeah.
You know what? I mean, enough. I was back to Indiana, please.
I'm fascinated by the story about personal time because that became the story. But the part of that interview with that Daily Caller person that was walking alongside of Buttigieg at night.
Right.
And when he said, the last thing he said was, "May I have a picture of you?" And he took a picture of the journalist. And my question is, why? What was it he wanted? And I pointed that out. And I think yesterday somebody in the press asked him, "Why did you want that picture? What are you doing with that picture?" And they wouldn't answer.
I believe it was just an attempt to be charming or to throw her off or whatever it may be. I don't think there's any sinister motive. I don't think the guy thinks fast enough for that.
I remember when I was young and naive. So.
You remember when you were young and naive, Beck? Okay, that was 3 days ago.
Yeah, all right. All right, so now let's go to Zelensky. And the 1-year anniversary today.
Right. So, I mean, this is a situation that is being exploited by some in the media, which torques me off because this is very dangerous, extremely dangerous, particularly with China, on the outskirts of this story. So I brought a guy this week who I think is the best expert of Russia-China in the country. His name is Dr. Graham Allison. He's a Harvard guy. He was the dean of the Kennedy School when I attended there. I've known him for 30 years, and he still speaks to me, kind of like you, Beck.
Yeah, I know.
If you're still
very
speaking
rare.
to me, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, Allison comes on, and he's an intellectual guy. He's not, a pie thrower, and he's basically saying, look, it's a very dangerous place. The world is a dangerous place, and simplistic solutions for exploiting this horrible tragedy for political gain is wrong. and you have to be methodical and patient and play the chess game and hope that Putin just self-destructs, which is possible. I mean, you got 1,000 casualties a day going back to Russia, dead and wounded, 1,000. All right, and now they're going to throw all of these untrained conscripts against hardened, motivated Ukraine fighters. And you know that it's going to be 10-1 casualties against the Russians. So, you know, you have to hold on here. And now we got Xi going in April, it looks like, to Moscow. I don't think China's going to help them out militarily because then sanctions will be slapped on China. But this is the highest level. And here's what really worries me. Biden is not competent to handle this. It's not that he did anything wrong, and I supported his trip to Ukraine and Poland because that raises the morale in Europe. That's what that was all about. It wasn't about the United States. It was we got favorable coverage, the United States, for one of the few times. He goes in, and we need Europe to back Ukraine. That's what that was all about. Okay, but in the larger picture, I mean, Joe Biden, he has no capacity to understand the subtleties of this danger emanating from Russia and China.
How concerned are you that this is leading us into or away from a proxy war and much closer into a war with Russia and China and the United States kind of at each other's throats?
Well, you know, I'm not worried that there's going to be a shoot war at this point. Okay, I don't see the flashpoint that would lead to that. And people say, what about the money? Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous that we have to spend $150 billion, you know, to send to Ukraine. But it will be 10 times more if Putin then would win that and then pick off Belarus and Moldova, and, you know, because he's not going to stop. It's not like Putin's going to go, okay, I got Ukraine now, I'm happy, and I'm not going to cause any more trouble.
2 days ago, I talked about this. Nobody seems to care about this for some reason. He just annexed Moldova.
Yeah, but he didn't physically annex them because he doesn't have the troops to occupy it.
Correct, but he did annex it.
He just said, look, I'm taking Moldova. But Americans don't understand this because, A, it's far away. B, whatever the media reports now, the American people don't believe. I mean, we're in a place in history where the major corporate media says stuff, and most Americans don't believe it.
Yeah, I know.
I mean,
but wait a minute. So with Moldova, though, the problem is, as I pointed out earlier today, the problem is 800,000 Moldovians have dual citizenship as NATO citizens. So if something does go down there, could that be used? I hope so. Good.
He doesn't have the logistical capacity. If you look at the map.
No, I know. It's landlocked. I know.
Right. So he can't. The supply lines now from Russia into Ukraine are dubious, to say the least. I mean, this guy, Putin, he's in military trouble. And that's why I say to my audience and everyone else, hold on. Okay, this is not going to get better for him. It's going to deteriorate. And the only people that could save him would be the Chinese. If the Chinese come in and say, yeah, we're going to give you all the ammunition and arms you want, that would be a game breaker.
Okay.
But I don't think they're going to do it because that would destroy the Chinese economy.
All right, let me ask you one more question, and that's on China. We know that, you know, this Chinese balloon came across. Joe Biden said, we think it's a weather balloon. We're not really sure what it is, yada, yada, yada.
Right.
We now know, we found out, I think either at the beginning of the week or at the end of last week, that the Pentagon had been tracking that since its launch in China. Okay, so they knew all about it. Now we find out yesterday that a U-2 spy plane took high-definition photos of the payload. It was the size of 3 school buses. it was navigating, controlled navigation, powered by a solar array. It had cameras, satellite response antennas, and it navigated over all of our missile sites and then over Strategic Air Command. What, I mean, Bill, they lied and lied and lied. What does that mean?
It means they don't know what they're doing. And that was my point about the big picture with Putin. You got a president who doesn't know what he's doing. And then, the balloon thing does go into the Secretary of Transportation. Buttigieg says, his latest pronouncement was, "Can I get a ride in the balloon?" And that's not, no, it's already destroyed. We're dealing with incompetence in Washington, D.C. at a frightening level.
I think it is run by imbeciles. It is run by incompetence, but there is strategy somewhere. That Inflation Reduction Act, it's brilliantly written because it has pieces of stuff all through it that have not been put together yet. So somebody is planning and plotting, and it's not good.
Yeah, if the Democrats win again in 24, I'm looking at property in the Bahamas. So I can't imagine that would happen, by the way. I just can't imagine that the American people would be foolish enough to cast a vote for any Democrat. Lori Lightfoot's going to get booted on Tuesday. All right, Kim Gardner in St. Louis, the DA's got fired yesterday.
That was great. Thank you to the Attorney General there.
Right. And you're seeing now this backlash coming fairly aggressively against these anti-American people who want to break our society apart so they can put it back together again in the vision of Bernie Sanders. That's what this is all about. And so Americans have got to kind of wise up, but the problem is they can't put on the television set and get any information.
Yeah.
Because the information is all skewed toward helping the Biden administration.
And it's also not just all skewed. It's talking about the wrong things. It's not. We are not talking about what does this war mean. Should we be even in there? You remember the days, Bill, it weren't that long ago, that we would debate things like this on the floor of the House. Nobody's debating it.
If you go to BillO'Reilly.com and you punch up Dr. Graham Allison, you'll see the best, I think, overall assessment of what's happening. Now, I have a question for you. Do we have time for that, or do you have
We've got about 45 seconds to a minute.
Okay. Do you think that all this revelations against our alma mater, Fox News, is going to have a long-term effect on our organization?
What are the revelations? I don't know if I've heard them.
Oh, yes, you have. The reporting on the election fraud.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I think all of that stuff's done anyway, Bill. I think it's just nails in a coffin over and over and over again.
What if they lose $1 billion in the lawsuit that begins in April in Delaware?
Yeah, I think it's going to have a real big effect. But I think
they'll lose?
I don't know. Do you? I think they could. I think they
definitely could, no doubt. And I think they may settle because, the principals in out corporation, they don't want to be going to Delaware sitting in there having to testify.
I know. Let's talk about that next week, can we?
Okay.
Let's remind me of that. Thanks so much, Bill. Talk to you.
Bye.